Welcome to Straight Talk and Retirement. Your no-hype source for financial advice in making informed choices about your retirement planning. Get on the phone to talk today at 314-931-5877 or text your question to 84126.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Now, here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, hello, St. Louis, and welcome to Straight Talk on Retirement, your live and local, St. Louis's favorite financial call-in show. I'm Jeff Lapidus, president of JBL Financial Services. Our offices are located in beautiful, sunny, hopefully, downtown Olivet, Missouri. I am a 40-plus year veteran of the financial services area, a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager. And I'm joined this week and every single week by my family and my crew. My oldest prodigal daughter, Aaron Lapidus, who is a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager. And her husband, my son-in-law, Robert Markham, our life insurance and fixed annuity sales specialist.
Good morning.
Good morning. We help our clients make smart choices about their money. The way we do that is by designing a game plan, a written step-by-step strategy, a real game plan that has several goals in mind.
First is to preserve, protect, and prudently grow the assets our clients have taken their entire lifetimes to accumulate. Second is to deliver a reliable stream of income, one that they can count on, so they can do all the things they'd like to do during retirement.
And third is cost-effectively addressing their health care needs, like helping individuals enroll in Medicare and choosing the right plan to couple with their Medicare coverage.
And then when they're done enjoying their assets during their lifetime, we show them how to pass them on to the people they love, whether it's their spouses or children, grandchildren, churches, or charities, whoever it might be, without Uncle Sam or the tax courts taking a big bite out of their money. And as their wealth managers, Aaron and I watch their money every single day to make sure they're staying on track. And that's why they call us the retirement coaches. Folks, again, good morning. Thanks so much for taking your time and tuning in with us. We've got 2 hours of fun and exciting discussions to have today. What's important is we do have a lot of things to talk about, but what's more important is what's on your mind. So give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the KTRS text line.
And there are many ways that you can keep in touch with us throughout the week. You can log onto our website, jblfinancial.com. In the upper right-hand corner, click on the Contact Us button. You can request a coaching session, financial, Medicare, or both. Ask a question, and even if you'd like to ask a question during the show, we'll take a look at our email and see if we can answer it live for you. On the lower left-hand side of the screen, there's a pop-up box that appears. It says, sign up for our monthly newsletter. We call it the Coach's Corner. We have it available on our website every single month. We'll also email it to you if you hit that sign-up button. And, Rob, we're in the last week.
We are.
Of December.
December just flew right by. So you want to be sure to click on that box and check out some of these great articles before we get into our January newsletter. And the first article is, how much income does Social Security replace? And if you've listened to us for any length of time, you know how important income planning is to your overall retirement strategy. This article will highlight how much you can expect Social Security to carry in your retirement. Our next article is working beyond traditional retirement age. What are the advantages and disadvantages of that? Great article. Lay out some of the pros and cons. And my favorite article this month is reviewing your estate plan. You know, end of the year, time to take stock of where you are. Maybe you've had a qualifying life event. Maybe you've had an addition to your family. Maybe you've gotten married.
Maybe you don't like the Christmas gift someone gave you.
Now is a great time to review your, well, we haven't gotten gifts yet, so I don't know what Santa brought me, so it's hard to say. We'll have to revisit that next week. But some other things to consider. Do you have a valid will? Does it reflect your current goals and objectives? are all your assets titled correctly? Do they reflect your wishes? And there's a nice, neat little checklist down here. It's when to review your estate plan after a major life event or change in circumstances. Review immediately. Each year, just a quick review. Every 5 years, a thorough review. I thought that was a really neat checklist down there just to kind of keep you level. And our last article is Get Ready to Visit the Metaverse. It's an interesting article. Shows the way augmented reality, virtual reality, and artificial intelligence are changing the way we interact with the Internet. So it's a very interesting, fun little read.
We call it the Coach's Corner, and it's available to you every single month on our website, jblfinancial.com. You can also follow us on Facebook. We're JBL Financial, and on Twitter with JBL Financial. So lots of ways to keep in touch with us, but I think Saturdays are the best.
I agree.
I would certainly agree with that as well. And I was going to say, I also resemble that remark in regard to holiday gifts. So where the heck are they?
I know, and it's even worse because today is a momentous day in the Lapidus family.
Well, let's put it this way. Some people would call it a momentous day. Others would call it life imprisonment. But
oh my gosh! I hope Mom's not listening. For everyone that is, it's my it's the wedding anniversary of the guy that started it all.
Yeah, you're number 44, so it's
44.
44 years. Now,
if that's not
a life sentence, what the heck is, right?
How have you been married 44 years if Mom's only 25?
Well, that means Rob stole the cradle here.
There's an algebra problem for you.
Hey,
exactly.
It's
a lot of fun.
I had to make up for that for Mom. Somebody has to defend her.
Well, the problem is she's in the other room snoozing, so it's okay.
Well, so you can get away with these things.
Absolutely. I'm not. I don't have to duck yet this morning. So it's fun. But in either case, we do appreciate you folks tuning in today. And just as a reminder, all of our clients are folks like you. They're our listeners. They're over 55. They would like to retire, or they're already retired. As Aaron mentioned, our goal is to create a game plan for them so they can have a fun and financially successful retirement. And again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. And I guess while we're waiting for our calls from you this morning, I'd like to jump right into the email bag since this is the season of giving. Remember that, honey, season of giving.
I know, and yet I have received nothing.
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
I just delivered a wedding 3 weeks ago. What the hell?
In fact, it was exactly 4 weeks ago because our anniversary was yesterday. 1 month, though, not 44 years quite yet.
That's nice. Well, keep on counting. So, in either case, I did receive an email this week from Tom, and he said that I'm looking to make gifts of cash for my grandchildren.
What a generous guy.
No hint involved there, okay?
We're just stepping right past that. Let's talk about...
Exactly. What are the amounts I can give without creating tax issues for them or for me?
The first $18,000 that an individual gives another individual in 2024 is exempt from the gift tax. If you're married, the amount is double. Charitable gifts, gifts to your spouse, and paying someone else's medical bills or tuition are not subject to the gift tax.
That's pretty good. So, in other words, what happens is that what happens if you give more than $18,000 or $36,000? There's actually no taxes on that either, is there?
Right. What happens is the donee, or the person that is making the gift.
The donor.
Donee.
Well, no, the donor.
The donee is the one who gets it, right? The donor is the one who makes it.
So, Dad, when you gift Rob and I $36,000 as the donor, if you were to gift us $36,001, what you would have to do is file a gift return reflecting the fact that you had given us so generously $1 over the gift tax limit. And what happens there is that single dollar, usually it's significantly more than that if you're planning to file a gift tax return, will go against your unified credit for your estate tax. So that would happen after you pass away or after both spouses pass away, and when you're dealing with the unified credit. So there's never any actual taxation to the person giving the gift, the people giving the gift, or the people receiving it. It's just in the event that you exceed your unified credit, they're going to pull some of that money back after you pass away to include it if you exceed the gift tax limit.
And we know that the gift tax exemption right now is hovering around $12 million per person. So that would be $12 million for me and $12 million for your mom.
That's the unified credit, right?
That's correct.
That's a lot of gifts.
Yes. So, and we
Gotta
know that
get
also
started.
in 2025, that number is supposed to go back and be cut in half. So if you're going to be making gifts, especially significant ones, you're going to be watching this election pretty closely, because the question is whether Congress will then come back. They'll have the impetus, most likely from the White House, to extend that gift tax exclusion. So for many folks, you're going, I wish I had $12 million each, but there is not only inflation be involved, but take a look at, hopefully, if you've been invested today, your investment accounts. This year seems to be a robust year in terms of returns on the market as compared to last year, which was a downer. So something to consider. Now, we know that the recipient of the gifts, we call that the donee, never pays taxes when the property is received. If it's anything other than cash, it's received at the donor's basis. And it's possible that income taxes could be due at the sale of that property in the future if the fair market value is greater than the donor's basis. So, Rob, give us an example of how that might work.
So say mom and dad were to gift 100 shares of stock that they paid $70 per share, but it's now worth $170 per share to Junior. Junior does not report the gift nor pay the taxes. Mom and dad do not need to report the gift or pay the taxes if it falls under the $18,000 annual gift exclusion. If Junior sells the stock, he will have to report a taxable gain on the gift. In this example, if he sold 100 shares at $170, he would have to report a taxable gain of $100 a share and pay the income taxes.
So that's why most people don't make gifts during their lifetimes of appreciated stock, because you're really limiting the gift that you are giving, because the recipient will end up paying taxes, but also you're negating the joy of holding that security until you pass away, and then those individuals being able to get that step up in basis and have that tax basis wiped away for them, making it a non-taxable or a less taxable event.
Yes, and again, what's real important here to remember is death transfers, inheritances, step up to the fair market value of that security, that home, that piece of property, whatever you're gifting to someone, to the fair market value at the date of death. So any gain or loss at that point would be measured based on the date of death.
So I actually have a quick question here, because you mentioned that charitable gifts to your spouse, paying taxes, paying someone's medical bills or tuitions are not subject to the gift tax. But then, Dad, you did mention the very generous gift that you gave Rob and I just a month ago when you gave us a wedding. Do you have to report that? Because I think it might have been slightly more than the gift tax limit.
Well, it actually isn't considered a gift because we didn't actually give the money to you. We paid it to the florist and to the caterer, et cetera, et cetera.
So, like, if you had a family member that was particularly generous, or you had an estate that was particularly large, and the mom and dad wanted to start seeing their children and grandchildren benefit during their lifetime, so they wanted to start making larger gifts. If mom and dad or grandma and grandpa paid a mortgage for someone, paid, electrical bills or utilities, paid for a grandchild's wedding, would all of those things be considered gifts, or would they just be considered you were paying for stuff?
Well, I would suggest here that because paying a mortgage for someone is an economic benefit, paying someone's bills are an economic benefit to them. That would be, in theory, a gift taxable event. Weddings aren't considered that way, either medical bills or tuition.
Or like if you wanted everyone to come together for the holidays and you paid for their plane tickets.
Exactly. And so those aren't really considered to be gifts.
Okay.
It's very difficult to measure inter-family gifts. And as we know, gifts between spouses, that is transfer of property between spouses at life or death, also are exempt from the gift tax. They're not really measured. That's because that's part of the tax law. But, I know that having two wonderful children, didn't I put enough emphasis on the wonderful side? They always feel like it's better to receive than it is to give.
What?
So what they're doing is they're waiting to receive those gifts. And it isn't unusual that, as you said before, honey, that somebody may want to give during their lifetime to people that they love in a significant way, so that they'll have an opportunity to see them enjoy those gifts as compared to death transfers. But when you're doing this, you have to be very careful about whether it's appreciated property or cash. Obviously, during life, cash is easy. Death transfers, other types of, especially financial assets, are easier. And just as a sidebar here, it isn't unusual that when we're taking on new clients and they have investment accounts, that they don't have necessarily the basis information on every one of their securities, because it wasn't until about 10 or 12 years ago that the IRS required that plan sponsors track that basis information and transfer it over to the new custodian. So we have situations where folks have maybe purchased a stock and then they moved it to a brokerage account, and then they moved it between different brokers, so that basis information wasn't captured. That type of situation really is, I like to call it dead weight, because in many cases you may not have the cost basis information, which you have to report if you sell it, and certainly you don't want to straddle somebody who you're gifting it to be in that situation, because they receive it during your lifetime at your basis.
And if you don't have the cost basis information, then you sell the security, either you have to track it down or you have to report your basis as zero, meaning that the entire sale of the security becomes taxable.
As if someone just gave you the stock, as if it were gifted to you, almost
at $0.
Right.
Exactly. So gifting is important. It's important to be careful, but the best thing is that nobody is in a taxable situation, and if you do go over the 18,000 limit, it's pretty simple to file a gift tax return.
And I would say if we just step back to that appreciated security that we don't necessarily have the cost basis on, you might call it dead weight, but there are different opportunities for you. One, you can request that specific security have its dividends and interest go to cash instead of being reinvested, so that way you're not adding to a position that you do not know the cost basis of. And then secondly, if you're charitable, we've been talking about gifting and we're in the holiday season, if you are interested in making charitable donations, instead of gifting cash, maybe you start gifting shares of appreciated securities that you do not know the cost basis of, because you get to record your donation at the fair market value the day that you gift it. The 501c3 charity or church or educational institution doesn't pay taxes because they are tax exempt. So not only do you come out ahead because you've started to decrease a position that is unfortunately a tax enigma to you, but you're able to make some donations and potentially more donation than you would have before, because if you're tight on cash but heavy on securities, this is a good opportunity.
Sounds great. Again, gifting, it is always better to give than receive, and hopefully that answers some questions.
And we do have one that came through on the text line before we head to our next topic.
And our first texter writes, how does those basis points work with a beneficiary deed?
So the cool thing about this is a beneficiary deed is used in ensuring that a home passes from the owners, if it's a joint owner or a single owner, to an individual that they would like at death. When the home transfers at death, property gets a step up in basis, which means the individual that you have left your home to or another piece of property to will have it appraised, and that is the fair at or around the date that you've passed away, and that will be their basis in the house. So if they sell it for about that amount, then they'll either be able to take a smaller gain if there's if they sell it for more, or they could even potentially take a small loss if they sell it for less than what it appreciated to.
Yeah, very good. Again, inheritances, if you think TODs, transfer on death, and that could also work with an automobile as well.
Absolutely, not just property.
We think of it mostly in transferring deeds of real estate, but it also could be with your car, and many folks use a TOD designation with their automobiles as well.
Right, and that the TOD designation with your automobile is simple because kind of simple. When you go into the DMV.
Is anything simple when you go in there?
Right.
No,
the title of your, that gave me pause for a moment, but when you go into the DMV and you have your title, you can add a TOD to the title. Beneficiary deeds for homes or other properties, usually you have to go to your county's courthouse, get a beneficiary deed, fill it out, and then return it to the registrar so they can record that for you. So it takes an extra step, but generally it doesn't require any costs.
And our next texter writes, employee stock program cost basis, not stock options, just shares given to employees.
I think they're asking how the cost basis works there.
Oh, sure. I mean, the cost basis is the basis on the date of the transfer.
So that means as they make sales at that, and that's recorded as you are receiving shares of stock as part of your compensation. That's being recorded what the share value is at the time that you receive it.
And that's your cost basis at that point. If you sell it at that point, you're either looking at a small loss or a gain, depending on where it falls relative to the price when you received it.
Right.
And also based on the time that you held it. So if you held it for more than a year, if you had a gain or loss, it would be a long-term gain or loss. If you sold it within a year, it would be a short-term gain or loss. So there was tax implications both ways.
The texts are coming in.
Should we take our next one or take our first break?
Let's take this and then we'll take a break. We don't want the people to wait.
Let's keep this truck rolling. Next texter writes, can you explain why small cap ETFs and bond ETFs are good to invest in now? I've been holding bond ETFs for some time and watched it plummet, but why are they expecting, along with small caps, to go up in coming years?
Well, I'll start this off, and I know, Dad, you'll have a few things to come in with. And then we have even a caller on the line. So, gosh, everybody is excited this Christmas Eve, the eve of Christmas Eve.
We kicked the beehive.
That's right. So, especially in regards to the bond positions, and this doesn't necessarily have to be in the form of an ETF. There are other ways that you can own bonds in your portfolio. You can own individual bonds. You can own mutual funds that are focused on a bond portfolio or a fixed income objective. You can even own unit investment trusts that focus on a bond portfolio. But when we see interest rates rise, because most people forget, since bonds aren't nearly as exciting as stocks, that bonds trade throughout the day just as stocks do. And when interest rates are increasing, if I'm holding a bond, for example, that was paying, a rate of 2%, and the rates have gone up, and now Rob has a bond of 5%. If I want to sell him my bond, I have to sell it at a discount because he's going to earn less. He's only going to earn 2% instead of the 5% that he's earning. So you're seeing the market value of the bond decrease is what's reflected in that ETF value or the mutual fund value or the individual bonds value.
And, that could work the exact opposite way, too. If you
Which
were
is
holding,
what he's talking about now. Why would it be good to hold them? Because
if as interest rates come down, those bonds with a higher coupon are going to become more valuable because people are going to want the higher coupon rate.
Exactly, which is why you might see the market value of that ETF increase over time. And in a lot of cases, in the small cap side of things, people tend to believe that when we are going to be in an expansion period or when rates start to decrease, that's usually stimulative to the economy. So smaller companies, and that's what a small cap fund or a small cap is usually in reference to, the companies that have a smaller market share, will see an increase in activity, which means you might see an increase in appreciation.
Should we take our first break and then go to our phone call?
No, I think you did a very great job on that. And
okay.
I guess at this point, the people that talk to us, the analysts, the folks that
we collect
employed,
information from,
right? Typically employed by people wanting us to place their products in place. What happens is that the small cap area has lagged the S&P 500. So has the international area. So what happens is naturally, if something is lagging, the thought is it's eventually going to catch up. So that would be one reason that people are saying to us, and you may be receiving information that small caps are going to be on the rise. But the truth is that nobody knows.
Not only does no one know, but that's just one data point, right, Dad? Because really for 10 years prior to last year, we saw international funds lagging the United States. They took a nice bounce, and now they're lagging again. So for 10 years, just because they were lagging didn't mean that they were going to bounce all of a sudden.
Yes, and again, the markets, stock prices are driven specifically by expectations of investors. So if you believe that we're in a rising market, then naturally small caps will generally they have historically outperformed large caps. If we're not there, etc. Internationals, again, a lot of the appreciation in international stocks happen to be in appreciation of the foreign currencies compared to U.S. currency. And I would tell you that for me, I'm not sold. So.
And that's why it's important to maintain a well-balanced portfolio. So oftentimes, you do see small caps and, of course, bonds in your portfolio. This might be a time that you're considering doing a rebalance and maybe adding emphasis, but that doesn't mean that it overtakes the balance of your portfolio. And before we take our break, let's take Sue. She has a question, it looks like, about Medicare Advantage plans.
Good morning, Sue.
Good morning. I have a friend who switched from a Medicare-approved secondary policy or plan to an Advantage plan. She is not happy with the Advantage plan and would like to go back to taking a Medicare-approved plan. And the people she's dealing with the Advantage plan tells her there is no way she will ever be able to get back to a Medicare-approved plan. And I'm wondering, is that true?
Well, first of all, I think you're talking about supplements because Medicare does not approve any plans. They don't approve the supplements, nor do they approve Medicare Advantage plans, unfortunately, because I guess they don't have direct control of them, so no supplement or Medicare Advantage plans are technically approved by Medicare. If your friend has been on their Medicare Advantage plan for less than 1 year, then yes, she would be eligible to go back to her supplement without any medical underwriting. If she's exceeded the 1 year, that doesn't mean that she can't get back in, but that does mean that she'll have to go through medical underwriting, which is a few questions. The first is, have you been hospitalized within the last 90 days? Do you have kidney disease or end-stage renal failure? And have you had a physician recommend a procedure or a test that has not been completed? And then they'll ask a few more questions, and the insurance companies get to decide if they're going to take her back under the supplement, or if they're going to deny her entry back into those supplemental plans. So she does have a few options available to her, and I would say if you most likely she shouldn't work directly with the Medicare Advantage plan because they don't have a reason to help her get back into her supplement. But if you want to work with someone independently, like Frank in our office, he can facilitate that change and then help review it on an annual basis for her.
Even if she lives in the state of Nebraska, is that outside of your...
No, we're licensed in the state of Nebraska as well, so we're happy to assist in that, especially if she's looking to move back to a supplement, because those supplemental plans are federally standardized, which means whatever she had in Nebraska, we will be very familiar with here in Missouri. Plan G looks the same no matter where you live. Plan F looks the same no matter where you live, so we don't have to worry about networks and nuances like the Medicare Advantage plans have.
All right. Thank you so much. You answered my question.
Absolutely happy to help, and we'll be happy to help your friend if she needs it.
Refer the message to her. Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Same to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right. Well, you know what? With that, let's take our first break of the hour.
So don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on Retirement after these messages.
The force is strong with the St. Louis Blues on January 4th as they face off against the Vancouver Canucks in an epic showdown at Enterprise Center. It's Star Wars theme night. Purchase a special theme ticket and receive an exclusive Jordan Kyrou Mandalorian bobblehead with a removable helmet. A perfect addition to your Star Wars or Blues memorabilia collection.
This is the way.
Our in-game experience will be out of this world as well, with movie-related content and galactic characters roaming the concourse. Secure your seats now at stlouisblues.com/theme.
Did that really just happen?
I don't think we can talk about that on air.
No, we can't. But we talk about a lot of things.
We sure do.
Wednesday afternoons in the 4 o'clock hour. I've learned so much about the real estate business and all of the extra things that you, Lauren Risley, and your team at Lauren Risley Realty do. I mean, you guys go above and beyond. You've even cleaned out different houses when somebody hasn't done their proper
job.
work.
Yes, but we love what we do, so it makes it easy. You know what I mean? And real estate is an ever-changing market, so it's our job as real estate agents to make sure we are educated and we are up to speed on what's going on. And that's a big part of our job, is educating our clients. Really, 6 months to a year before they're even ready.
Lauren Risley Realty, 314-775-0684. Experience what I've experienced with my mom and dad, what my friends have experienced. Lauren Risley Realty, 314-775-0684.
No one has done more for new development projects in St. Louis than my guys Bob and Steve O'Loughlin. From Westport Plaza to the Cheshire to Union Station and their newest place, The Pitch, perfectly situated next to the new soccer stadium at Union Station. The Pitch is a beautiful athletic club and tavern. Food and drink you can't wait to celebrate. The Pitch is where sports fans go to get the best seats in the house and elevated eats to go with them. Find The Pitch online at thepitch-stl.com.
I'm Matt Lupo, owner of the Grout-Medic, and I want to personally thank you, the KTRS listeners, for hearing McGraw deliver our message. We are experiencing tremendous growth, and we are looking to add reliable and responsible employees to our team. For a great career with a growing, locally owned company that offers training, great pay, and benefits, call the Grout-Medic at 314-597-6644. We'd love to hear from you.
I'm Mike Robinson with Robank Properties, and I want your fixer-upper home or condo. It's crazy to spend a ton of money fixing it up when I will pay you top dollar right now. I don't even care what condition it's in. Your trash is my treasure. No inspections, no contingencies, just cold, hard cash. Call me, Mike Robinson, at 314-283-0867. That's Mike Robinson, 314-283-0867, or at ROBANGproperties.com.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, it's 9:40 here on the Big 550 KTRS, Talk Radio St. Louis. We've got some more Straight Talk on Retirement, actually about another hour and a half. So we would love to hear your texts at 84126 from the text line, and your calls at 314-931-5877.
And while we're waiting for your calls and your texts, maybe we'll talk about our rock stars of the week.
Oh, the rock stars of the week.
And we'll talk a little bit about Jim and Linda. And Jim is 63 years old. He's a logistics executive at a large private company. Linda is 62, and she was a computer analyst at a public company in St. Louis. Both are retiring in 28 days.
So that's the end of next month, basically?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Neither of them have pension plans. Neither of them taking Social Security benefits, but they are power savers. They've amassed $1.6 million in their 401k, and they have $160,000 in other savings. They have no mortgage debt, no significant credit card debt, and no student loan debt.
So does that mean they don't have children?
You know?
Oh my God! No, like my jokes are just not landing this morning.
No.
I was going to let that one fall on deaf ears out there.
My gosh, guys are humorless
that's fun,
today.
But it really is. You know that's an OMG,
It really
right?
is.
You know, it's neat when and as far as we're concerned, and what we've seen historically is that folks that have no mortgage debt, they've been able to keep their credit in line, and they don't have any other obligations, maybe for children, in terms of helping them with student loan debt. They're pretty much on their way to being rock stars, but it all starts with a game plan for income.
And we know,
go ahead, Rob. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that we know that they are spending $7,000 a month, and we know in retirement we're going to have to scale that up with taxes at about 20%. So that's an $8,400 a month goal, or $108,000 for the whole year.
And with their Social Security benefits, each when they've reached 67, which would be their normal retirement ages, it's going to total about $6,000 a month. So with an $8,400 income need, that includes taxes, because all but the $160,000 that Jim and Linda have amassed, plus a portion of their Social Security, will be taxable. So it's important that we add that in as an expense in retirement. $8,400 minus the $6,000 of Social Security income means that they'll need about $2,400 a month, or $28,800 a year from their investments.
And we know that to try to determine how much capital they need to, at a prudent rate of withdrawal of 4%, tells us that the milk money, as I like to call it, of capital is about $725,000. But on top of that, as you know from the analysis that Aaron just went through, we looked at the end when all the faucets were on, i.e. their Social Security faucets. But before that, if they are deciding to wait to put off their taking their Social Security benefit until normal retirement age, that means that we're going to need $108,000 or total income flow for 3 years, or $324,000. So when we add the milk money of $725,000 plus the $324,000 of income prior to taking Social Security, their total capital need is about $1 million. They also mentioned to us that they did want to do some home improvements, and we also know that there was a boat somewhere in the conversation, and so between those, we know they had other expenses of about $170,000 of capital required.
Which we also included taxes into that distribution as well.
Yes,
they won't all be in the same year, so including 20% for taxes, even for the home remodeling expenses and the boat. We're going to spread that out over multiple years, so we don't end up in the 32% tax bracket.
And I think it's important here is that they were able to identify certain I call them capital consumption events, things that were non-recurring that we'd also have to set aside capital for. So between their total capital needed for income of $1 million, basically $69,000, plus their total other expenditures, we know that they need a total of $1.2 million. The best part about their situation is they've got almost $1.7 million. So woohoo!
Rock
stars. They are rock stars. And I think this is a great example because we are often, the first question most people come to see us ask is, do I have enough to retire? And all of the retirement literature focuses on a specific number that should be generalized to every single person. But the truth is that your retirement number, so to speak, is really personalized to you. And it's not personalized to your current income. It's really personalized to your lifestyle. And the way that we reflect lifestyle is simply by how much you spend every month. And lifestyle can incorporate a lot of different things. For example, with Jim and Linda, they didn't have a mortgage, they didn't have credit card debt, they don't have student loans. So we know that the majority of their spending comes from what we would traditionally call lifestyle, which is everything above and beyond what it takes to pay the mortgage and keep the lights on and things like that. But for other people, a mortgage could comprise a significant portion of their income. But the most important piece of this is, do you have enough assets to support your lifestyle, however that is designed, because you've taken the time, it's your life, hopefully you're happy with it, and we want you to be able to maintain that the day after, have that same lifestyle the day before you retire as the day after. So being able to focus on how much you're spending every month and computing the number in that direction, not only do I think makes a goal much more achievable, but it actually gives you a goal to work towards as opposed to just a esoteric number of $1 million or $2 million, or I think the last time I heard another number, it was $4 million.
Yeah, you just can't throw out arbitrary numbers as, this will be right for you, like a one-size-fits-all approach, because every life is unique and everyone's spending habits are different and everyone's family situation is unique. So I don't know that a one-size-fits-all approach is the right way to go about it.
Absolutely.
Well put, guys. I think some very good comments. And again, it isn't what you make, it's what you spend. And I think you put it so aptly, Aaron, which is an ideal retirement, putting health aside, is one where you're able to maintain the same level of spending, doing the things that you want to do the day after you retire as well as you were doing the day before you retire. So that's great. But we know that there are some considerations, not only financially but also emotionally. Are you really ready to retire next year? And we think it's really a function of getting your ducks in order. So let's take a look at both of those sides of it.
Before we take a look at both of those sides, we should probably take our second break of the hour.
All right, let's do that then.
So don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on Retirement after these messages.
I'm Farmer Dave, and here's my good friend and owner of MasterCars Inc., Alex Rosenberger, with today's hot MasterCars Inc. deals.
Thanks, Farmer Dave. As usual, we have plenty of Corvettes and muscle cars in stock, but we're also stocked with luxury SUVs, pickups, Jeep Wranglers, and the like, and that'll help make winter a little bit more fun. We've also got plenty of pre-owned Harleys in stock. Now is the right time to buy a motorcycle. The discounts are deep and no payments until spring of 2024. We have a finance solution for just about every credit type on motorcycles and cars. We need trade-ins too. In fact, if you have a very clean, unique, low-mile car or motorcycle you'd like to sell, call or email us. We'll buy it. We'll even buy entire collections.
So rev that motor and point your car in the direction of MasterCars Inc. and buy or sell today. 4100 Namioki Road in Granite City, or visit MasterCarsInc.com to get more details. That's MasterCarsInc.com.
Happy holidays from Guido's Pizzeria and Tapas, where you can enjoy Guido's famous pizza or a wide selection of authentic Italian and Spanish fare. And now through the end of the year, be sure to take advantage of Guido's terrific holiday gift card specials. Purchase in the restaurant, and for every $100 in gift cards, you'll receive a $30 dine-in gift certificate, good January through March. Purchase online and receive 20% off every $100 in gift cards purchased. That's a lot of Guido's. Visit Guido'sSTL.com for reservations or to place a carryout order.
Are you looking for a general contractor who is reliable and exceptional? Experience the excellence that has made Beck's Construction Services the second fastest growing private company in St. Louis. You might be asking, what makes Beck's Built better than the rest? Efficiency in the field, savvy solutions, and being true to their word has earned Beck's the Contractor of the Year award time and again. Retailers, restaurants and car dealers, schools and churches, senior living and healthcare, manufacturers and distributors all team up with Beck's for the best in design build construction. Learn what Beck's can do for you. Call 314-932-2100 or go to BecksSTL.com. That's BEXSTL.com. Good, better, Beck's.
You've moved before, and when it comes time for you to move again, and I know that these are things you probably are not thinking about right now, I'm going to make a recommendation on a mover for you. These people are simply great. And just because they have moved the Cardinals every season for like the last 35 doesn't mean they're going to cost you any more than, the guy down the road. Aim Razek, totally professional. They love moving. They live for moving. I know it sounds crazy, but they invest in people, and then they reward those people when they do a good job. That's how great companies are run, and that's the kind of company Aim Razek is, a United Van Lines company. So whether you're a corporate relocation or you're doing some sort of hospitality installation or you're just moving to another house across the street, around the block, across the state, across the country, or around the world, you can count on Aim Razek. They're there for you all the time. You'll find them online at a-mrazek.com.
Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Dan Lang. Join me every Sunday afternoon from 2 to 3 on the Big 550 for Animal Talk, where I talk about everything regarding dogs, cats, and other domestic animals. Topics include nutrition, training, medical checkups, special guests show up now and then, and of course, I'll answer your questions. So join me every Sunday afternoon from 2 to 3 for Animal Talk on the Big 550 KTRS, the Animal Talk of St. Louis.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, we're back for the last 8 minutes of this hour of Straight Talk on Retirement. The Hour of Power, Hour 2, is coming up very soon. But our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the Steamin' Hot text line.
And our next texter writes, my spouse is a retired educator, receives a PSRS pension, never had much in terms of Social Security contributions except for the Medicare portion. Is there a way before my spouse reaches full retirement age for them to draw on theirs early or mine and then switch back at full retirement age?
So, unfortunately, if you were born before January 1st of 1954, you're no longer allowed to take a spousal benefit and then switch over to your own benefit in the future. But regardless of using the spousal benefit or your own benefit, if you have PSRS, or many teachers refer to it as peers pension benefits, your benefit, your spousal benefit, your survivor benefit, those are all going to be subject to the windfall, which means they are all going to be for most people, pretty drastically reduced. And it sounds like for our texter's wife, probably very reduced if they haven't paid much into Social Security and the majority of their contributions went into the peer system. So I hope that answers the question.
Maybe not happily, but good answer.
Unfortunately.
And
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say we have another text, and it says, I am considering taking an early retirement offer at work. After my 6-month severance package runs out, I will need to receive income from my retirement assets. Could you and Erin describe the process for planning for cash needs for income with clients?
Honey, I think this is for us. This is an easy one, but what we don't know about our texter at this point is what is his or her age.
Right.
Certainly, that's going to be a big deal. If you're under the age of 59 and a half, which is a possibility, and you're between the age of 55 and 59 and a half, you probably may not be wanting to withdraw your money from your 401k or 403b plan. You may want to be leaving it there as a way for us to access that because you would be subject to the 10% penalty. So that's a planning variant. But otherwise, once you've moved your money, doing a direct transfer to an IRA plan, then what we're going to do is go through the process, which we normally do, as we just did in our last discussion. How much are you spending? After tax, we then gross that up for taxes. Then it's a question of what are your income flows? When will they be coming in? And usually if there is a gap, we'll then be discussing what sources do we withdraw from, what faucets do we turn on, whether it's taxable IRA assets, non-taxable other assets, which could include Roth, to create that income stream for you using a prudent rate of 4% as a withdrawal rate so that we're not chewing up your capital over a long period of time.
Well then.
Okay. Let's go to our next texter. And our next texter writes, what are the pros and cons of leaving assets to children in a trust versus a will?
Well, first of all, if you have only written things into your will, you're guaranteeing probate, because essentially what probate means is the reading of the will. Now, when people get into trouble is if they have no will, then you automatically assume your state's will. If you do not have a trust, what is most paramount is that you have beneficiary designations on everything if it's going to children, if it's going to charities, if it's going to your spouse, whomever it might be. You want to make sure that you have TOD designations on your bank accounts, on after-tax accounts if you have investments that are in individual or joint accounts. Those would have a transfer on death or a payable on death designation. Retirement accounts all have what are called beneficiaries. They functionally are the same thing. They just have different titling for different types of accounts. You'll want to make sure your beneficiaries are listed on each account. In terms of a trust, and Dad, I'll let you expand on this a little bit. I know that there are specific reasons why you might want to have a trust. Our family attorney likes to say it's if you don't trust, and that could be you don't trust the people you're leaving the funds to, or if maybe you have a family member that has special needs and you want to make sure that they're taken care of. Also, I know that trusts can, in some cases, protect assets from creditors for those beneficiaries.
Yes, very good. So what we're really talking about is with a trust, since the trust doesn't have a life as an individual does, when the grantor of the trust, the person that created that trust, passes away, anything that's owned by that trust is still there. And what happens is it's then distributed based upon the written language inside the trust, like a will. But unlike a will basically says, I want to give this to this person, because the assets aren't titled in that person's name, or as Aaron was mentioning, if there isn't a direct beneficiary designation to that person, you're subjecting those assets to probate. And really what probate is it's a delay. And it could delay up to 16 to 18 months of getting assets to the people that you love or to the charities that you love. So everything starts with asset titling. If you don't, and as Aaron said very well, if you don't trust the person's receiving assets directly, or let's assume they're even minor children or grandchildren, you need to have you would need to have a trust in place. You need something to be a holder so that they can then be distributed later. So that's kind of important to do. Again, most a trust can cost several $1,000s to create, but it's something that will be very beneficial for you if you haven't taken advantage of the other asset titling ways to do it, which is easy. And again, all I would suggest here is that there are lots of questions that folks have, especially on the text line, on the telephone. We're getting ready to go to hour number 2. We would certainly love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from text line. So don't touch that dial. We'll be right back with hour number 2 of Straight Talk on Retirement right after these messages.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, we're back with some more Straight Talk on Retirement here on the Big 550 KTRS. Our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line.
And we've got some follow-up text from our last hour, and our next texter writes, follow-up question, can both a trust and a will be contested in court? Anything can be contested in court.
Unfortunately, I have to agree with that. Anything can be contested, however, and just as a matter of working with so many great families over the years, we have lost some clients, and maybe not all of the family members are as friendly in life as they are when someone passes away. But if you have a trust, if you have beneficiary designations on your accounts, it's going to be difficult for the person contesting to find an attorney to take that up as a case. In most cases is what we have found. But just like Rob said, everything has the possibility of being contested, unfortunately.
Indeed. And our next texter writes, what do you think the chances of House Bill 82 of passing and repealing the WEP for public sector pensions?
So WEP stands for Windfall Elimination Provision, and basically what that is, what we were talking about. If you are a public sector employee and you've been paying in, for example, you're a teacher paying into the PSRS or PEERS system, you are subject to the windfall with your Social Security because for several years, or maybe your entire working career in some cases, you are paying into a different pension system than those of us that pay into Social Security. In my opinion, and I mean, you're asking us to make political opinions on things that I would say.
Is this really the year to be doing?
Right. Is this the lifetime to be doing that? Probably not. But I would say in a time where it seems as though collecting tax dollars and limiting expenditures is going to be in our future, I doubt that they will be repealing that for public sector pensions simply because those individuals, they paid into another system. But I would argue, and I know it's not a lot of solace. We've worked with quite a few teachers in the past that have that PSRS pension. Your pension is more valuable based on your years of service and what you will be receiving than if you had worked the same amount of time paying into the Social Security system with the same wages. So hopefully for those people that gives you a little bit of comfort in knowing you paid into a slightly more lucrative system than the rest of us.
Sounds good.
Nothing to add there. Very well done.
Oh, thank you.
Is it
well,
time?
It's time. It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Smart Choices about your health care.
We talk Medicare because you care?
Every time.
I love it.
Dad, that was a classic. That was a good one that you originally came up with.
Thank you. You'll get your bill in the mail.
A bill? I should be getting paid for this.
Yeah, royalties.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about Marcia. And Marcia is 69. She's been on her employer's coverage for the last 4 years. She's planning on retiring at the end of February. She wanted to know what she needed to do to avoid a penalty and come on to Medicare full time.
This is a great question because we have as many people as we see that are retiring before 65. We see quite a few people that love their jobs or can't
They're making them offers they can't refuse to keep them.
or nothing is more compelling than their paycheck.
Right.
There's lots of different ways we could say this. And they're working after they've turned 65 years old, or they're working, well into Social Security normal retirement age, in that 67 range. So we have a lot of questions about, I'm working, should I take Social Security? I'm working, I'm 65. I've been told I have to get on Medicare, or I'm going to end up, someone's going to throw me into the volcano or something.
Lifelong penalties. No, they,
Right.
They're experts in their job, but they're not experts in the nuances of Medicare, and they're not expected to be.
Exactly. So Marsha's really, I think she's done it perfectly so far. She's worked. She's about to retire. Congratulations, by the way. And she stayed on her employer coverage even though she missed her initial election period. And we talk about this a lot. Your initial election period is that 7-month window that surrounds the month that you are born. Now, and that's, the month that you turn 65. Unless we get Medicare for life one day, wouldn't that be nice? So your initial election period is the 7-month window that surrounds the month that you turn 65. Medicare gives you the opportunity to take Medicare at that time if you have individual health insurance, if you have COBRA coverage, if you have employer-based coverage and you work for an employer that has less than 20 employees, or if you have employer-based coverage and it's particularly expensive for you and you want to take a look at alternatives, you can elect your Medicare benefits when you turn 65. If you are still working but your employer is paying a nice portion of your benefits, you have good benefits that you like, not only do you not have to take Medicare, but Medicare has allowed for you to skip that initial election period and move on to a different election period. We call this a special election. Because Marsha has stayed on what is considered qualified coverage, which would be an employer plan that has with an employer that has more than 20 employees, when Marsha retires at the end of February, her coverage is going to run until the last day of February. She's going to elect her Medicare Part A and B benefits to begin March 1st. She's going to use that special election because she'll have a qualifying event, which is that loss of employer coverage. There are a couple of steps, though. Step 1, you got to go online to socialsecurityadministration.gov, so SSA.gov, and enroll in your Medicare Part A benefit if you didn't happen to do that yet. Most people, if you're not going to apply for Medicare, there's no reason to apply for any parts of Medicare until you're ready to take the full boat, as we like to say. So you're going to apply online for your Medicare Part A benefit. Then you are going to get 2 forms. One is your Medicare Part B application, and the second is called the Request for Employment Information. This is you're gonna fill out the Medicare Part B application. It's super simple: name, date of birth, Social Security number. You're going to give that request for employment information to your employer. They're going to write, in Marsha's case, that she was on the plan from the day she turned 65 until February 28th when she left the plan. She'll send those into the local Social Security office, and what that's going to do is tell Medicare not only to waive any penalties that would have been assessed against Marsha if she had just missed her initial election period and had no other reason to elect Medicare later down the line. But then also it's going to give her the opportunity then to choose whatever she would like as if she were 65. So she could take a Medicare supplement and a prescription drug plan. She could elect a Medicare Advantage plan. There will be no medical underwriting in this election for her, and you can line everything up to begin March 1st, so you not only have continuity of coverage, but you don't have any gaps. So that's important too, and that won't create any penalties for you. And the great thing is you've kind of taken, not only have you taken advantage of your employer paying a part of your health care benefits as you are working, but you are able to continue to take advantage of, I see that as part of your compensation, right? It's a benefit provided by your employer, but they're paying a portion of it for you. So you want to take advantage of all the parts of your compensation for as long as you can. And then when it's time to switch off, then you'll take over paying for your health insurance. The other important distinction, and why so few people actually elect Medicare over their employer-based plan, is because premiums that come out of your paycheck when your employer deducts them for you are pre-tax. So you're not going to be taxed payroll or income taxes on that deduction. Medicare premiums and any cost associated with supplemental plans or prescription drug plans, those are all after tax. So if we're truly comparing apples to apples, when we're having a conversation with you, we're going to want to know, how much are you earning? Because we can really say if you're paying $70 a month, if that's what's being, let's use an easier number. If you're having $100 a month deducted from your paycheck for your health care benefits at work, and you're in the 20% tax bracket, it's really like $120. It's not just $100 versus what Medicare premiums would be.
Quick question on credible coverage. I'm imagining log on to Medicare.gov and see if the coverage you have when you turn 65 is credible.
Well, it's a little bit when you log on to Medicare.gov or SocialSecurity.gov, they're going to say what we just mentioned. The threshold is that your employer has 20 or more employees, because that is what triggers the Medicare payor rule, which says that Medicare will always be secondary to a plan that is based from an employer that has more than 20 employees. If it's less, you want to call the insurance company that you have. So if you're using United, Anthem, Cigna, whatever is on your card, you'll call and ask them if they are considered qualified coverage. That way you know for sure that you're on the right track.
The only reason I asked is because last week's example with Dan thought the VA would be
considered credible coverage.
Right, and it wasn't, and he got hit with that penalty. So, just a nice way of putting a bow on that so people don't end up without a chair when the music stops.
That's a really great point that you make, because there are a lot of situations where it's confusing. For example, if Marcia was 65 years old and retiring, well, she would have, or even 69 years old, when she retires, she's still going to have access to COBRA. They're going to send a COBRA notification in the mail because by law they're required to. But COBRA, if you are over the age of 65, is not considered credible coverage, even though it's identical coverage to what you had while you were still working.
It's almost as if they set you up for failure by sending you out that notice, because you might think inadvertently like, oh, I'll just continue on with this and I'll be fine, but you won't be fine.
Well, you have a lot of competing rules. The HR department and the plans and the employers are required to follow certain rules regardless of age, one of which is notification of COBRA. Then you have Medicare rules, which say, COBRA, because what it is essentially is the portability of your health insurance coverage, and it's supposed to be available to you when you don't have access to other credible coverage. Medicare is credible coverage. So that says, unfortunately, that no longer makes COBRA credible for you. But there are other funny nuances. Well, I don't know if they're funny, but there are other nuances that I've learned over the years. For example, if you, unfortunately, are a resident of a federal prison, you don't have qualified coverage if you're over 65. Someone has to keep paying your Medicare Part B premium, or when you are released, if you are, then you will have to face a penalty for your Medicare premiums. Even though, wouldn't you think a federal prison has federal coverage for health insurance, so you would think it would be credible, but it's not.
Just exploring the nuances of Medicare.
That's
Federal Inmate Edition. No, I mean, this is a great example of why you want to sit down with a professional like Frank Ellis at our office, get some of the best tasting coffee in all of Olivet, and go over dot all these I's, cross all these T's, and make sure that, you have the credible coverage that you need, that you don't get hit with a penalty, and that generally things work out as they should.
And I would also say in a lot of cases, people are excited. Well, people are happy to jump onto Medicare because in a lot of cases it's either less expensive or the same cost as what they were paying, but there are a lot of extra benefits available through Medicare that a lot of people don't hear about because we tend to focus on the negative side of things. But I would say flipping over to Medicare in a lot of cases creates some of the best coverage you've ever had, gives you some extra benefits that you haven't had in the past. And if you're, like you said, Rob, if you're working with a professional, you can make sure that, and what our goal in our office is to make sure that you understand your Medicare just as well as you understood your current coverage, which is how much does it cost? How much will I owe in the worst case scenario? So what do I owe every month to get this? What do I owe if the worst thing happens? What's my maximum liability? What doctors can I see and how much does it cost when I see them? where can I fill my meds, and how much is it going to cost when I want to fill those. If you understand those basics, I think you will always be comfortable with the coverage that you have because you will always know what's about to happen next. I'll know how much it costs when I go to the isn't credible coverage not credible? I feel like that's a joke that I want to laugh. Like, I want to laugh along, but I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point being is that I lost my train of thought there. So if you have any Medicare questions, now is the time, team. 84126 on the text line or 314-931-5877 on the phones. We are happy to answer any Medicare or health insurance questions that you might have. If you have HSA questions towards the end of the year, what you could spend those dollars on. If you have a flexible savings account that you're looking to drain by the end of the year or by the end of your plan year, we're also here to answer those questions too.
Another great part of working with someone like Frank is, you eventually throughout the year might come to some spots in your plan where you don't quite understand exactly what, you're not picking up exactly what they're putting down. You know what? You just give Frank a call.
That's right. Frank, our Medicare coach, 314-863-0008 or Franklin at jblfinancial.com.
And nobody writes more Medicare coverage during the year than the folks you hear on the radio right here.
That's
and
right.
kind of proud of that. And I think that the other real benefit behind this is once you understand what the costs of Medicare are, what your maximum out-of-pocket potential is, it puts a lot of certainty between your financial plan. When I hear, and I hear this often, which is people are going to go broke because of healthcare costs in retirement. It's just not true. I mean, it really isn't. All the plans, whether it's a supplement, traditional supplement, or Medicare Advantage plan, have limits.
Right.
And there are limits on drug costs. There's limits on drug costs are coming down.
Well,
there's also limits
there
on
will be limits on drug costs.
Right.
Not this year, but soon.
Exactly. So working with someone that can help you and, frankly, hold your hand and walk you through the transition is important. And let's be honest, it's scary. You've been under a plan that you probably didn't choose, didn't have any input into by your employer. And you're leaving the safety of that plan, something that going into the new world, which is Medicare, which, frankly, as Aaron said, in many cases has better coverage, lower out-of-pocket expenses, access maybe to more benefits. But feeling good about that is what it's all about. So, give our office a call. We'd love to help you. We're helping literally hundreds of folks every single year, and they're all listeners on the show, so thank you.
And I would also say that working with someone like ourselves, someone like Frank, it also eases a lot of those transition concerns because you're not the only one that is concerned about transitioning from your employer plan to something else. Even my dad, when my mom retired from a major medical system in the St. Louis area, he happened to enjoy some great coverage through my mom's employer, and when it was time to transition back onto our employer plan, my dad comes in to my office and looks at me and he goes, "This is all going to go fine, right?" Of course, Dad, you do it for people all the time. Why would it be any different for you? But there's always insecurity when it's about you, when it's about your family, when you're making a transition that maybe you haven't made before. So having someone there to hold your hand, even if it's not your daughter in every case, can also add, I think, a lot of security to those decisions.
And I will put it was true. I mean, and the worst thing is I've been selling health insurance for over 30 years.
He's been helping not only people make this transition, but he created the plan that he was transitioning back on to.
Exactly. And, that concern about would our pre-existing conditions be picked up immediately without delay. I knew that it was because I was telling employers for 30 years that it was because we do a lot of employer health plans as well. So I know the rules and we know the transitions happen, but when it's you, it's something that's different. So it's good to turn to expert advice, and especially one that you can send to your room if she doesn't behave.
That was a
but
good
not
one.
anymore.
Love that one. Got to try that at the house.
You bought the farm, my friend. What can I tell you?
Yeah, that's right.
And on that note, I think maybe we'll take our first break of the hour. So don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on Retirement after these messages.
I'm Farmer Dave, and here's my good friend and owner of MasterCars Inc., Alex Rosenberger, with today's hot MasterCars Inc. deals.
Thanks, Farmer Dave. As usual, we have plenty of Corvettes and muscle cars in stock, but we're also stocked with luxury SUVs, pickups, Jeep Wranglers, and the like, and that'll help make winter a little bit more fun. We've also got plenty of pre-owned Harleys in stock. Now is the right time to buy a motorcycle. The discounts are deep and no payments until spring of 2024. We have a finance solution for just about every credit type on motorcycles and cars. We need trade-ins too. In fact, if you have a very clean, unique, low-mile car or motorcycle you'd like to sell, call or email us. We'll buy it. We'll even buy entire collections.
So rev that motor and point your car in the direction of MasterCars Inc. and buy or sell today. 4100 Namioki Road in Granite City, or visit MasterCarsInc.com to get more details. That's MasterCarsInc.com.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, we're back on hour number 2 of Straight Talk and Retirement. It's 10:26 here on the Big 550 KTRS, and I'm in trouble.
What, do you get yelled at over your jokes? Mom was awake?
Yes.
No goal for you forever.
Which one did you in?
Which joke?
The minute I open my mouth, trust me, your mom doesn't appreciate wife jokes, even though they're easy. So what can I tell you?
You know, Rob, I don't hate them.
If you keep this up, you can be hanging out with the coyotes.
I hear you, and not to take back any of my jokes, but I've been very fortunate.
Take them back.
It sounds like he wants the coyotes.
Well, wife jokes are easy, so I'm not taking them back. And most people laughed, even though your mom didn't. But, the truth of the matter is...
Well, we all know Mom is not most people.
No,
she's a special person.
She is, and she's the best person I know. I've been very fortunate that she's been dumb enough to stay married to me for 44 years. I'm really the lucky one at this point.
Aww.
Which is great. So, again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. Rob, do we have any more texts on the line at this moment?
We've beaten the text line into compliance. It is very quiet right now.
Well, fabulous. So let's get into, I think, again, as you folks know, I'm 3 days away from normal retirement age.
You're 66 in 6 months?
Exactly, 66 and 6. And, just like many of you, the question you have to ask yourself is, am I financially ready to retire? Am I emotionally ready to retire? And, it's been fortunate, this is what we do every day, helping folks work through the financial part. And frankly, in many cases, having them really look introspectively about the emotional part. So you have to have your ducks in line. And so I think there are questions that you really need to ask yourself. And I would suggest, if we would, let's start with the emotional side. What is making you get up in the morning and go to work? Aaron kind of made an allusion that folks emotionally are probably not ready to retire if something else other than work, not just the money, but also the social situations, the friendships that they've made, the actual work itself. If something isn't more compelling than what you're doing today, you're probably not emotionally ready to retire. And then you have to ask yourself the next question, which I think follows pretty easily. What will I be doing to replace the time that I'm currently working?
I think that's a big one because, you don't really, the hour before work, the hour after work, and then work. I mean, it's like 10 hours a day. Scale that up. It's 50 hours a week, 200 a month. I mean, if you don't have a plan for all that time, you could find yourself kind of rudderless in retirement. And, I've sat in on quite a bit of meetings where, I'm not going to say they feel that way, but they haven't quite. It takes a little bit to kind of find your new equilibrium with all the free time that you have. It's just something I've noticed.
I think I definitely agree with that. And these first two questions, just like we talked about your game plan on the financial side being personalized, these two questions are very personalized to each individual. We see some people that literally can't wait to retire.
Right.
They have hobbies, they have friends, they have things that motivate and interest them far more than their work ever did. And it was, they may have had careers, but it was really more like a job to them. Whereas we've also worked with quite a few people, especially on the sales side, I tend to see, and also in the healthcare side, where you love your job, you love what you're doing, you love the people that you see every day. So making that choice to retire becomes less about the financial side and more about exactly what you're talking about, Rob and Dad. My friends, my work, my self-worth, my enjoyment all comes from my actual job, and that it's even less about the paycheck at that point. It's more about the emotional side of things.
Oh, we've had clients that get very excited, discussing they're just putting the finishing touches on a long project that they've been working on for multi-years. They don't want to retire yet because, they want to see it through to fruition. They've, from soup to nuts, they've done everything, and now is, the grand finale. I mean, it's more than just a paycheck or, a job. They are really emotionally invested in what they do, and they're not ready to leave it just yet. And that's okay.
Right.
And there are certainly some other things that need to be considered. Some questions that we've kind of come up with, which is, what will other people be wanting of my time?
It really focuses on grandma and grandpa time in a lot of cases. Are you becoming the new babysitter?
Are you being pressed into service on another front?
Yes, that's important. And something else to consider, will I be staying where I live today, or will I be moving? Most folks that we visit with initially are wanting to either downsize or possibly upgrade their homes to make it we'll call it their last place that they live.
I call it forever home. It sounds less sad.
Okay. But it's also not surprising when we get that phone call that says, "Woohoo! Grandchild number 1 is on the way," or my favorite child has moved to XYZ.
My favorite child.
And we're packing up. We're packing up and we're moving. So those are some important considerations to do. And then also, do you have a choice to continue to work? If it's a part-time option is available, should you take advantage of it, and how long? All these questions are ones that we feel is important, and certainly we ask clients and potential clients during coaching sessions, because it really creates, we think, the emotional basis for retirement. And I would say that in my case, I've already been given my "you may not retire" walking rules at this point, because I'm fortunate that my daughter and son-in-law would like to keep me around at least through this weekend. And, for me, the interaction with clients will really, as Rob was saying, watching their game plans, helping them create them, watching them unfold, and seeing them enjoying the retirement that they planned, it's important for me. I mean, it truly is it's great work, and I love getting the phone calls. Jeff, don't be mad. But we're having our first grandchild, or grandchild number.
Mad. The
grandchild number 6 is on the way.
You're having our sweet clients emotionally support you. But I was just going to add to this, which is that not only are these questions that we ask and that we ask you to consider before you retire, but these are questions that the answers might change in your retirement. There are some people that literally can't wait to get out the door, and then once they are, maybe a few months go by, and they're less excited about the 10 hours a day that they have free to them. So that's another reason why we are always encouraging our clients to meet with us on a regular basis, and we encourage them by calling and asking them to come and see us on a regular basis, because things change, and that the emotional side of your retirement can very much impact the financial side of things, and we want to be here to make sure that our game plan stays on track with what your goals and what your needs are, and a lot of times those things can change just as much as your financial needs can.
My favorites are the clients that come in and they're done, they're ready to go, and then within a month of them leaving, the employer calls them back and it's like, hey, we'll give you the same money we were giving you before, but now you can work from home 3 days a week in a consulting capacity, and it's almost like they get to eat their cake, get to have their cake and eat it too. It's really, really fun for them, and it's fun for us.
Yeah, I think we're in an interesting time. We get to see a lot more of that now.
Yes, I mean, it seems like it's happening with every other client that they're begging them to, hey, would you
we
consider,
miss you, please return.
If we, continued to pay you like you were working 7 days a week, but you only showed up 2, would that be preferable? It's like, why didn't you say that before?
Right.
Absolutely. So again, those are some of the emotional components. Let's talk a little bit about the financial components.
First, getting your ducks in a row financially.
What are your resources available to replace the income you need to maintain your lifestyle? As always, it's a math problem.
Exactly. And will I need to supplement my resources with part-time work or a full-time job that pays less and may be less stressful? That's certainly an option that many folks do consider if they don't have sufficient capital to do what they want to do.
And here's one that we just touched on in our Rockstar of the Week example. Will I need to bridge the gap between my current age and normal retirement age for collecting Social Security benefits, i.e., when are we turning those faucets on? And how do we plan for there could be a space between the time they come on and you actually retiring?
Yes, and certainly one other consideration many folks have is, and again, getting away from the actual income flow discussion is, are there assets I need to get rid of? Maybe turn into cash before I retire.
And this could, a lot of cases, be, we have quite a few clients that have built little mini real estate empires, potentially, or they have second or third homes, and maybe there's some downsizing and consolidating in retirement.
Yes, making their life a little bit more simple, not only from we'll call it administrative or a time point of view, but also from a cash flow point of view. And another big one, and this is frankly something that we try to work on pre-retirement before they go, and that is, are there debt obligations that need to be satisfied before they retire, and they need to be, or soon after they retire?
And I think we've worked with quite a few clients that tag their income to paying something off. Like, I'll be ready to retire when the college tuition is paid or when the mortgage is paid off. That's my retirement goal. It might not be a specific date, but it's if we could speed this up in some way, or when this happens, that's when I'm ready to retire.
Sunsetting debts and obligations, one of the biggest obstacles.
Oh, you know what? We've got a great text example here. I love working in the grocery business for 47 years, but at 63 and a half, I was burned out. I retired, thinking I would have plenty to keep myself busy. Well, 6 months later, my son-in-law saw how bored I was and asked me to help him run his Amazon business. I'm 72 and still loving that business.
Somebody that had too much tread left on their tires, and they just didn't know it.
So, Dad, if you decide to retire, can we ask you to come back and help? I'll put help in quotes. Do you get paid for help?
I would think you would be compensated, no matter what he was doing.
Honey, I don't think you can afford me.
Not on the help side, not as a consultant.
Not as a consultant. I think that if I was to come back as a consultant, it might be as a jingles writer.
Oh, nice. Right.
That's something I'm a marketing guy, so I would probably want to do something if I was going to do something different.
Oh, man,
maybe in the next lifetime.
That's a great question. We've never asked you before. If you were not, because I've always seen you as you were born to be a planner of some kind. What would you do if you weren't, if you were not a planner? You'd be in marketing or something.
Yes, I would definitely. I would probably want to do something that was involved with branding for companies or even for individual products.
So still advising. You can't get away from it.
I'm picturing like a Mad Men episode.
Oh, nice.
Well, kind of that. I was really thinking more of bosom buddies, but I don't have to dress up.
That's great. Dad, you're like John Madden, never worked a day in his life.
Exactly. So, and again, then the final one is, do I have or do I need professional guidance through the process and beyond? Do I need a coach? And all the people that come to visit with us, literally 99.5% want coaching, and they want a professional, help in the process. But that's something you have to decide for yourself. One thing at least one phrase that I've coined over the years, and I use in coaching sessions, especially in the investment side, is that we never take toys away from boys. And that is that if this is something that you love to do, you've been successful at it, or you feel like you could be successful at it, then you don't pay someone a fee to do that. But there are a lot of other areas, which are the ones we talk about every single week, that without a lifetime of study, it's difficult to have the answers and to make good decisions. So we think that if the greatest athletes in the world have coaches, you should have one as well.
I was just thinking that, Tiger Woods is an expert in his field. He's been doing it since he's a small child, and he has a coach. So if Tiger Woods has a coach in the field that he's an expert in, how do you not have a coach?
Not the dating area, right?
Well, we can't be an expert in everything. Come on.
My goodness, have we strayed?
No, we certainly have. But what's nice is that there are obviously coaches, different types of coaches. We call ourselves coaches, but there are different levels of financial professionals. And getting ready for retirement, this moving from the accumulation phase to the distribution phase may take somebody different. And it isn't unusual that we're becoming the advisor for many folks because they need help in that transition phase. Somebody that loves the rules, loves to understand the rules, and it's fun. Fun for planning for folks' cash flow on the front end, and then obviously planning for distribution of assets after folks pass away. That's just the fun. And maybe, in my opinion, especially because of the tax law changes, at least I think for us is probably our most important work, which is making sure that wealth that folks have created over the years, been able to live and create a cash flow, can be successfully transferred to the next generation or to people they love or churches or charities in the most efficient manner. So it's fun.
Absolutely. And with that, I think we should take our second break of the hour. So don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on Retirement after these messages.
Hey, KTRS listeners, Roger Wigginton here, Don Rogers Limited, 6727 West Main in Belleville. We're heading into the holiday season, and to help out all of our wonderful customers all through the month of December, we're running our Holiday Inflation Buster Sale. We want to help you out. We want to help your pocketbooks out. We want to get you into Don Rogers and check out our incredible selection of men's and women's apparel. We're going to run the sale all through the month of December. And you know what? Why fight the malls? The hassle, no help. Park at the door, walk in, get waited on. You're going to get great service. You're going to see a great selection of updated men's and women's apparel, and you're going to save money at the same time. Whether you're shopping for yourself or shopping for someone else, now's the time to come in, take advantage of this great sale at Don Rogers Limited. Don't forget, we're open Tuesday through Saturday, 9:30 to 4. Park at the door, walk in, get waited on. You're going to get great service and a great discount. And as always, we thank you for listening to our commercial.
This is Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, we're back with our final segment of Straight Talk on Retirement. It's been fun this morning visiting with you. Our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line.
And our next texter writes, my wife and I have an estate of $2 million. Congratulations. We have no children or other family members to leave our estate to. If we want to pass this on to charities, what is an efficient way to do this?
Babe, you want me to
Of course,
give you
I
my
want you to
initial thoughts
start.
here?
I want you to kick this one off.
Okay. First things first, I would suggest that if we don't have other family members and you really are giving these to charities, I would suggest that you let these charities know that this is going to happen. The reason being is that then you'll get invited to all the fun stuff since they're going to be getting your money. And there's really a couple of ways to do this. Number one is that you can certainly make them the beneficiaries on retirement plan accounts, and that's kind of easy. If you do that, what will happen is that money will pass to them basically income tax free, which is nice. But with your non-retirement assets, I think it's something that's a little bit different. You certainly can make them the beneficiaries, but I would suggest maybe you try to do something during life. What you can do is make larger donations or contributions to a vehicle that, frankly, could provide you with some tax benefits today, but also some, obviously, cash flow for them later. And it's called a donor advised fund. This is a situation where what you can do is you can make contributions to your fund, almost like the Bill and Hillary Foundation, okay? It's something that's approved by the Internal Revenue Service. You don't have to do any filings, etc. You get a current tax deduction, charitable deduction for the contributions that you make. But unlike the way you may be making contributions today, you can actually have control of the money and dole out as you wish without any IRS requirements in terms of minimum contributions.
There was one caveat to this. Your required minimum distribution cannot, donations from your IRA after you've reached required minimum distribution age cannot go there and be deducted from your required minimum distribution.
Yes, that's a good one. And I was going to suggest here is that, let's use an example. We had a client in a very similar situation whose parents had recently passed away, and they and their siblings, two other siblings, had inherited the family farm. There was a sale of the farm property because nobody wanted wanted to maintain the farm any longer, and they had a very large distribution. And fortunately, what happened is the market had appreciated in the real estate since the time of Mom and Dad's death, and so they had a large taxable gain. One way that they used to avoid that gain or reduce the effect of it was to make a large contribution to their donor-advised fund.
They get the deduction that year, but they don't have to give all of the money to a specific charity that year.
That's right, and they get to dole the money out as they wish, and I think that would be important. Again, let the charities know, and if you can, create some tax benefits today.
Right, so just to go, that donor advised fund is almost like a vessel for you. It's holding funds that you have already told the federal government are going to be considered are charitable donations. So you get to take the deduction when you move it into that vessel.
Yes, and I haven't mentioned is that these are basically sponsored by most of the very large mutual fund companies. So what's neat is that you're making this contribution of whatever it would be. Excuse me. You're then able to invest those assets, make them grow, and make the contributions even more larger and hopefully go longer, more valuable to the charities that you want to benefit.
Can you answer another question? I think I'm sure some listeners might have this on their mind. Can you explain a little bit about a charitable remainder trust?
Yes. So a charitable remainder trust is a way for you to get assets out of your estate. What you're doing is you're making a large charitable contribution. And basically the IRS says is that with that charitable contribution, those assets are being retained, but you're also able to receive some form of a life income. And so that remainder interest is then deducted. And again, there are tables to do this for you, but you can then create an income stream with a piece of property that you're getting out of your estate.
So you can actually donate the property or the appreciated asset. You can live off of some of the interest from it over your lifetime, or you can create income from it over your lifetime, and then after you pass, it goes to it stays with the charity that you've given it to, or the charities that you'll be giving it to based on the trust.
That's correct. And you don't get a full deduction for the entire amount because the remainder interest, which is the interest that's creating income, is deducted from that. So
that's an attorney's that ventures into needing legal counsel to set that up, correct?
Absolutely. And there are also companies that have prototype documents that can assist you. Where this really is going to become more valuable, at least I think it'll become more valuable, is if we have a drastic reduction and or rollback of the unified credit. Because for many folks, what they're talking about is a death, like even with our last texter, which is having highly appreciated property. How do I get this? How do I get some benefit during my life for that property, but also benefit the charity ultimately? So if those estate tax unified credit levels drop, they get cut in half. There are folks that are going to have between a husband and wife $12 million. It's not unreasonable. And if you think about where you are today, if you're someone, frankly, folks that have inherited or even are living in retirement, you have large IRA accounts. If you're only withdrawing 4% required minimum distribution size, if you're invested, you have an opportunity to continue to grow that capital over time and, frankly, maybe get into a federal estate tax situation.
All right.
And our next texter writes, I am 63 and considering retirement in the coming year. I am also divorced after a 15-year marriage. Does it make sense to consider drawing from my ex-spouse's Social Security before I draw on my own?
So if you are 63, that means that you're born in 1960. So unfortunately, you're right?
Yes.
Okay. You're not going to qualify to first elect the spousal benefit and then flip over to your own. The benefit that you elect will be the benefit that you have to maintain in retirement.
And there's probably a couple of reasons why you may not consider. Number one is that obviously the spousal benefit has to be greater than your benefit.
And also remember in your particular situation, if you're 63 turning 64, it's not just 50% of your ex-spouse's benefit. It's going to be 50% less it's going to be only about 26% of their benefit, because the individual that is electing, their age is always a factor in the election process. So the spousal benefit is 50%, even if you're divorced from your spouse, as long as you were married to them for 10 years. But your age will further reduce that 50% if you are at normal retirement age yet.
So in her case, she's about 2 or 3 years below it, so she'd take an 8% per year
discount on the 50%.
Yikes.
Well, that, and even with folks that we see that are eligible for survivor benefits, they typically don't elect them if they're still continuing to work.
Right.
Because if they are, then what happens is they have to deal with the Social Security take-back rules, and it makes no sense to do that. But the big deal here is that if you're asking this question, what it means is that you can't elect a spousal benefit unless your spouse is taking, or ex-spouse is taking, their benefit.
And you won't be able to flip over because you were born after January 1st of 1954.
Yeah, and they changed the rules in a backroom deal. I mean, frankly, we didn't know about this until it came out. It was kept very hush-hush. And again, another way that the government is trying to raise revenue or reduce your ability to
right.
and flexibility to do that, and that's just the way it goes. That's life.
The only benefit that is not subject to the 1954 rule is the survivor benefit. So, and this could be a little confusing because they both start with an S and deal with your spouse, which is spousal benefit is your spouse is still alive, or you're divorced from them, you were married to them for 10 years, but they are still alive. That's 50% of their benefit, less 8% every year you aren't normal retirement age if you're electing it. The survivor benefit is 100% of your spouse's benefit. That isn't now that can be reduced by 8% year over year for every year that you are at normal retirement age. The election is earlier on that. You can be 60 years old as opposed to 62. The take-back still applies, but you can transition to your own benefit when you want if you've elected the survivor benefit. So that's the only one that has it. Sometimes they call it the widower's benefit, but that's really not what it's referred to on. So that's really not how it's referred to on SocialSecurityAdministration.gov. So in order not to confuse people, we try to keep the lingo the same.
And we certainly could see a potential situation where someone's retired, their spouse has passed away, they elect the spousal benefit.
The survivor benefit.
The survivor benefit. They let their benefit continue to grow and maybe take it at sometime later when it exceeds what the survivor benefit is.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why I did want to point out that one distinction, because for those individuals who have unfortunately lost a spouse, you didn't lose the opportunity to maximize their benefit, or your own, too.
Again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. We've got about 2.5 minutes left. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line.
And our last texter writes, I am very concerned about volatility next year in the stock market because of the election. I am considering moving to an all-cash position in my 401k just until we get through the election. Do you think this is a smart strategy?
No.
The problem with going to an all-cash position is then you have to eventually decide when to get back in. And, you could imagine someone going to an all-cash position at, say, the end of, 2022. And then we have, the nice rally that we've had all this year driven by, AI and tech. And then, if you're on the sidelines, you're faced with the, unenviable task of, all right, when do I get back in? I mean, you don't want to get back in as you're going into a rally because you'd
feel like you missed the boat.
Right, and you don't want to buy at the high. So you're faced with, more problems than solutions at that point, I would think.
What I would like to suggest to anyone that's listening, especially to this texter, regardless of which political party or person, if you can find one, that you want to back in an election, the country survives every single president. If you're a Democrat and a Republican wins, you think you went to jail. If you're a Republican, you think you got out of jail. The markets continue to run irrespective of who's sitting in office. It's really based upon the decisions that are made. And frankly, at the end of the day, market prices are driven by the expectations of investors. Don't run for cover unless you need to. At the same time, nobody knows what the future is going to bring. Staying invested is a way that you're able to build wealth over long periods of time. And we know that the market recovers from
history. Historically, the market has recovered.
And thanks so much for tuning into our show today. You know how to reach us, 314-863-0008, or go to our website, hit the Contact Us section, or email to Jeff or Aaron at jblfinancial.com.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services.